Hi guys, so today we will be talking about quadcopter drones and how to get started with the build. Alright, so sit back, relax and enjoy, and let's get started. So let's talk about the basics or type of the drone. So we have the horizontal takeoff and landing drone. We also have the vertical takeoff and landing drone. We have the eVTOL, which is more like the hybrid drone. So it's more like you have the vertical takeoff and landing and horizontal takeoff and landing combined together to form a typical drone. So these drones varies depending on what you want to use them for, but I think hybrid drone is becoming a normal because you see hybrid drone used for the advanced air mobility and also used for urban air mobility. So we have this newer technology coming from the combination of the vertical takeoff and landing technology and horizontal takeoff and landing technology. So the vertical takeoff and landing drone are more like the multi-rotors, then the horizontal takeoff drones are more like the fixed wing. So what's the Ornitho-copter? So Ornitho-copter are more like animal drones, or should I say a kind of drones that mimic the flying methods of animal, bat, insects. It's actually been existing for a very long time, but then Intercopter drone has actually been in the rise to check for spy activities, maybe in a border area, and also it can also be used for surveillance because it looks more like an animal. So now simple drone assembly. So let's build a simple quadcopter drone. So when you want to build a quadcopter drone, I think these are the parts that are essential to note. So you can actually get this part in mind for you to get started. So the first thing is the chassis, which is like the body. The next thing is the brushless models. So here we have 4 brushless because we are dealing with the quadcopter, and quadcopter is more like saying 4. So you can actually have hexa and octa depending on how many models you want to use for your drone. So the next thing we're going to add up is the propeller. You need to figure out, okay, how long the propeller, stuff like that. So if your brushless model is very fast, it's preferable you use a short propeller. But if your motor is quite slow, you can use like a longer propeller. So that's it. All right, so now the next thing you have is the flight controller. So yeah, I have a Pixar flight controller down on the chassis mounts. Then we have the GPS. So the flight controller is always put on a suspendant, but then I didn't put that in the slide. But then the next thing you connect is your GPS mount, which has compass and GPS signal. Then you connect your battery, so you need to have your battery in mind. Then your ESCs. So these ESCs are more like electronic speed controllers. Then that being said, we also have the flight transmitter. You can see the transmitter control and also the receiver end. So these are very, very important to note. And when you see this picture, you notice that this is the front of the drone, and the drone actually has a configuration on its own with its propeller. So it actually moves clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise. I can see. Today I want to explain some of the basic components you need for a quadcopter drone. Alright, so the very first thing you need is the brushless model. So the brushless model, yeah, it's a 1000 kV, and you need about 4 of these because I'm dealing with a quadcopter, which is more like 4 models you're going to use for control. Then the next thing you also need is the ESC. So this is this electronic speed controller for the drone. So you need about 4 of these as well because I'm working with quad. I'm trying to build a quad, right? So when you're going to build like an hexacopter, you need about 6 of it. Then the next thing you also need is the flight controller. So you can see I have a Pixar 4. And this flight controller, you can connect a lot of sensors to it, telemetry, and even servo motors because you have so many pins here. So this is a pixel controller is quite robust for what you want to do. So I think it's a good one. It has its inbuilt GPS, also it has inbuilt compass as well. Then the next thing you also need is you need the flight controller encoder. So this is actually more like a decoder to get the signals from the pixel down to your receiver. So I think I'm going to talk about receiver next. So this one actually encodes and decodes the signals coming in from your receiver down to your to the flight controller. Alright, so you need this as well, Pixel. But then if you don't have a Pixel, you have, let's say, APM 2.6 and 2.8, you don't really need the encoder. You only need the just maybe connecting via PPM or via PWM cables. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the receiver. So this is the receiver module. The receiver module, yeah, it has about 10 channels. So you could actually connect servo motors to this, or you could, yeah, so via PPM, or you could actually use PWM as well, but then you can connect several motors to this flight controller, and also it gives you ability to do have so many connections from your drones to your your transmitter. Now this brings me to the transmitter. So this transmitter is a 10-channel transmitter, which also allows you not only to connect several modules, but then you could actually fix several flight modes using these knobs, the switches. You could fix several switch to several flight modes with this, and you could connect your gimbal and control your gimbal with these knobs here. So it allows you to control that. Then so this is a flight controller with the joysticks. You can see this one is for the throttle up and down. This is for the yaw left and yaw right. Then this is for the pitch up and pitch back. Then we have for the roll right and roll left. Alright, so then since that's about that, so I'm not going to set up this Pixel today, but I'm going to make a different video and tell us how to set up this Pixel for our quadcopter later on. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is the GPS. So here we have the GPS module. The GPS here is the M8N GPS module with compass. So it has an inbuilt compass, and if you look at these cables, you see it has about 5, and the I2Cs. So this is like power cable about 5 with one empty one. So this is basically for Pixel. So if you have a GPS for APM 2.8 or 2.6, it's gonna be different because you need to note your wires. It's gonna be 4 than the normal I2C cable. So have that in mind. Then the GPS is gonna be mounted on the stand, so as to prevent interference from your flight controller with the GPS. So both of them has some magnetic fields from the compass and the GPS. So this is going to be like a distance separator between your flight controller and your GPS. So it's going to be preventing any form of interference from the GPS, the compass here, and that of the lone GPS module. So this has, you can see, it has a mount, it has the stand as well. So that's what you need this stand for. Then the flight controller needs a shock absorber to prevent any form of shock while your drone flies. So it's very important as well. Alright. So then lastly, I'm going to talk about the battery. So this is the LiPo battery, and it's called a 3S LiPo battery. 3S means it has about 1, 2, 3 cells. So each of the cells is about 3.7 volts. So roughly we have about 11.1 volts here, and you can see 11.1 volts and 30 C boost current. So this battery is good enough for your drone, and it can power a lot of things. As you can see, the cable's gauge wire is quite large enough because of the power it actually sends to your ESC. Yeah, so but you actually need to take care of this because this is more like an asset. I don't think you would like to destroy this because it's quite expensive as well. So you really need to take care of this because it's also explosive, so it needs more safety precaution. Okay, so have that in mind. So I think that's all for what I have here, but I think there's still something missing, so I'm gonna put it in the slides next. and I want you to decide which of the component is missing, and let's see if we can align. Thanks. So I think you didn't notice something that was missing in the drone I explained, demonstrated with my video. So we have the propellers that were missing, and also the next thing that was also missing in my video was the chassis. So these are actually the two things that was missing in that video I made. Yeah, so in case you want to get started, make sure all this is in place for you to get started with your build.